But as I started to think about this in the context of what can change the world right now, as I look at each of these symptoms, each of these causes, it's still going to always boil down to us individually choosing things. And it's meeting people where they are, not where we hope they are, and not trying to put ourselves somewhere where we're not, we don't even see ourselves getting. It's doing the possible again. It's claiming our individual sovereignty again. And then deciding what we're going to do. And the next section is all about that. It's willful living. And a lot of this has already been integrated. So this will be more of a reminder as we kind of bring these sections into a tighter form. And I also want to mention, I got a donation button running during the breaks and stuff. That isn't coming to me. The Green Wisdom TV and the Green Wisdom channel that's helped me set this up, I've known these guys a long time. And they're trying to do a TV channel that will bring people like me into the world more frequently. Not just me, but a bunch of people. So what I said to Paul, and she didn't know this until they showed up and we're getting ready to come here, is anything we raise is going to them. I make my money elsewhere. I'm not making any money on this. The people that set up that website, they were volunteers. I asked for volunteers a number of weeks ago. They all came forward and volunteered. And then after everything was set up, I said, look, I want this permanent. And so whatever we generate, if we can keep this going, I don't need anything, but let's at least keep it going so the people working on these productions can do them. I think that's worth doing. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm helping them do their thing because they're helping me deliver what I've waited 50 years to do. And man, as I'm doing this today, the burden being lifted from me is tremendous. I came in the world to learn all this, to share it, not to just hold it in my head. Releasing it today with you is the greatest gift you could give me because I have the opportunity to do it. So I want to help them do this for more people because we need this now more than ever. So that's what that's about. The ongoing activity of memberships are to keep the people running the social network and the stuff so I can do this. Because I want to do this regularly in a way of teaching and providing a greater depth of knowledge without having the interruptions of having to do it through someone else's channel. So we create our own channel. It's been a long time. Maybe I should have done this a long time ago, but now was the time. Now is the time when a new channel needs to open. A new way of seeing needs to maybe open. And I'm not alone in this. There's millions of people seeing it this way. Different aspects of it. I mean, we all see the elephant, but we see it from our own direction. So some people think it's a long trunk, and some people think it's a big floppy ear. But the fact is, there's only one elephant we're attacking. It's the elephant of awareness in the room. That's all of us in the room. Willful living, simple acts of kindness. We hear it all the time. I talked about the principles of chain reactions. You know how you do that. First smile creates the next 10. The same is true with the first hollering at someone. Go bawl out a clerk at the post office to see how good the next 10 customers feel dealing with that person. Don't do that. Don't let yourself do that. You feed the beast doing that. You amplify that and you give it to everyone else. And I know that's not what you want to do. I just know it. I know that is not what most people want to do. There's a few people that live their life that way, but they're rare. And you see them coming, and those are the ones you know, and you get out of the way because you're not going to waste your time with them. But most people don't do it for those reasons. So rethink some of that. Engaging the possibilities, I've talked enough about doing the possible. Prayer in a conversation and prayer as a spoken or private matter. Now, whether you believe in a God or not, meditation, I think you can take that one on. That's kind of self-discussion. That's okay. Start with yourself. That's all you got. That's where you start. Anything else is a lie. Start there. Start with yourself. Sort out yourself. Spend the time there. The rest will reveal itself. I know every human seeks love. Good. Good thing to seek, good thing to be, good thing to try and find. It will lead you to the right places. And prayer should be spoken, or your meditative words, your affirmations, if that's what you're going to call them, need to be spoken out verbally. If you have someone and you think it makes you uncomfortable, it's okay. It's okay. Go in your private room, what they used to call in the Christian faith the prayer closet. Think about that, a closet, right? A place to go where you can be alone in a conversation with someone that's a parent that cares about you. Have a caring conversation, even if you're just talking to your own awareness. Do that. Start with that. taking a break. You know, what is prayer? This is my funny saying about prayer. Prayer is taking a break and entering an ongoing conversation. Let me say it again. Prayer is taking a break and entering an ongoing conversation. The break is from all the distraction of the world. The break is from the body screaming for survival and everything pushing against our belief systems. Take a break, take a breath, find your own space just for a little bit and tithe to yourself. It's one of those things, basic principles. And I talked about the power of two people, and I want to say this a little stronger because this is a really important factor, and I want to talk about it in conjunction with prayer and focused thinking. Because whether you believe in something in a God or not, this will work anyway. If you gather people together, you create resonance. There's no other principle to it. If you can get people to agree on something and focus their thoughts and emotions and intentions in the same direction, you get more effect. Whether you believe it or not, you do. And there's been experiments done on this, looking at the Noon's effect, looking at the whole planet before big events, and they had these devices planted all around the planet, and they looked at them, and every time before a big event, they see this thing where you go, okay, something big's about to happen, and then 9/11 would happen, or an earthquake would happen, and those were actually measured, those kind of events. They could see them all coming. Something was signaling they're coming. Yet, what would that be in such a massive way of influencing? So, on an underlying way, there's also something going on that can be measured that we're not perceiving well. This is, again, it's that underlying consciousness that we're plugged into, but the keeps us from being aware of it, although we're still in it. The very important is the fact that resonance is the effect of focus and combinations of sources of energy, in this case human beings. The principle of two or more gathered together, this is a principle of resonance. This is where it gets bigger than the two. It's x plus x in brackets squared, or x plus x plus x plus x plus x plus x timed against itself again. So the more in the chain, the more powerful the switch. So there's been experiments done on radio. I've even done it on radio feeds where I've asked 1 million people at one time to take 30 seconds and focus on something. I know it works. The guy who did the work on this wrote a book on inducing ESP in yourself. I helped publish the first version, Richard Allen Miller. Go look him up and look at his books. He's got a new one coming out on non-locality. But the idea that you can do things, and he did things. He worked for the, he did the Northwest for the Mankind Research Association back in the 70s. That was a group that was being used at that time by the Central Intelligence Agency to explore the mavericks in science that universities wouldn't have anything to do with. And Richard, he was brilliant, he was a genius. He worked on the protocols for growing plants on Mars right way back then, figuring out what wavelength would grow plants, specific plants in a specific way to their optimum. And he did that study, and he was a little crazy. He studied a lot of other weird plants too. But this is a genius. And then he ran the biggest occult bookstore in the 70s in Seattle. And he dealt with weird stuff. He was a guy they'd send in to debunk the psychic, to find out if he was for real. And then what all these guys were discovering is that a lot of these guys were for real. They could do weird things like bilocate, where they could sit in one place and watch themselves from another, or where they could go out of their body and observe things. They call that out-of-body experiences, or remote viewing is a more popular name for this now. A lot of things were observed that they could not make sense of, but it scared the hell out of them. In the mind effects area, which is where a lot of my work is, and we'll be talking a bit about that as we go on, and we've talked a bit about it already. Power of choice, we've talked a lot about, and the fact that we actually have them. The fact that we don't use them very often. Willfully, this is it. We default a lot. We just sort of say, oh, I won't decide. But that is, in fact, the decision, because that's just handing it off to everyone else. And the results are a life of drift rather than a life of purpose. And that's a big part of all of this. So Energy, in terms of what I'm talking about here, gets deeper than this, because when you start combining visualization, the knowledge of words, with emotional energy and intention, and you really get it, now you have the keys to creation if you start to apply them. This is what people know. They'll do everything they can to keep you doing impossible things so nothing happens. But as soon as you start doing what is possible, as soon as you start resonating with your own measure of truth and your own path, is when you gain control of your own life again, and you quit trying to measure up to everyone else's. And when more people do this, they'll quit demanding that of you. They won't need you to validate them. They'll be valid. They'll know they're valid. They were created that way to begin with. We're all in a state of remembering this now. It's important to remember. Most people are never going to remember anything. They're going to get so lost in the fear and the anxiety. And just remember, most of it's being driven by fear. People are just afraid.